So good morning everyone, my name is Lalit Soni and you are watching Drishti IAS. In this live session, we will be discussing Indian Express newspaper. We will try to cover all the important articles for you. Okay, so in our session, we will be discussing first the question which was given to you in the previous lecture. So that practice question we will discuss first and then we will be moving forward with the fact of the day. We will try to give you one fact which you can use here and there if you want to. Then know our constitution. Here we will be talking about the article related to ordinance today. Okay, you know that we were talking about parliament and we have discussed almost all the important articles from the parliament's point of view. Then after that there is this article 123 that is related to the ordinance related power of president. So we will be talking about that and then we will be moving forward with the next section, that is your Supreme Court, in the you can say next session. Then talking about the important article, that is what's new in the J&K elections. Jammu and Kashmir is going for the state assembly election after nearly 10 years now. So we will be talking about that. We will be seeing that what is new this time. Okay, here this article was given on the front page of the today's newspaper. First phase of voting next week ahead of polls election commission to Jammu and Kashmir. They have actually given certain guidelines to the administration over there. We will be talking about them and we will see what are the impact of that. Okay. Then moving further, second article is related to a grave threat from AMR, okay, antimicrobial resistance. Okay, so we will be talking about that, why this is in news. Other than that, Polaris Dawn mission, this is a mission, you can say a private mission. Okay, you must have heard about the SpaceX. SpaceX along with another private companies, they have actually decided to go for a space walk. Okay, so that is a private space mission. We will be talking about all the aspect with respect to that. Okay, this is not the first time that some private exploration has been going to, you can say, space, but this is important because they are going for the space walk this time. Okay, for your own read there will be one article and in the end there will be a practice question. Other than that also there will be 2-3 important articles we will be discussing in this particular session. Okay, now looking at this front page, we have seen that the Jammu and Kashmir issue coming to here. After defense dialogue, Moiju of Maldives set to visit Delhi next week. Okay, so that is Maldivian president is about to visit India. So we will be talking about that as well. Moving further, which landmark case established and clarified the collegium system for appointing the judges? First and second judge case, second and third judge case, third and fourth judge case, second and fourth judge case. When we are talking about the collegium system, okay, it was introduced by the second judge case. Okay, but it was clarified in the third judge case. What will be the you can say composition of the collegium? Okay, with the third judge case, the present form of collegium came into picture, that is CJI plus 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. Okay, that is CJI plus 4. Okay, so we can say that with the second and the third judge case, you can say the today's collegium system can trace its origin to. Okay, now we can move to the next one, that is about your fact of the day. Cyclone Asna. Okay, Cyclone Asna has originated in the Arabian Sea. Okay, when we are talking about the you can say these cyclones, so this is a rare August cyclone, has drawn significant attention as the first North Indian Ocean cycle in August since 1981. Why this is a you can say rare cyclone? Because when we talk about the cyclone in August, that is rarest of the rare, and last time it happens was in 1981. Okay, so after that now this cyclone Asna has arrived. Now the name of this cyclone has been given by Pakistan. You know that we have this system of giving name to the cyclones. Okay, so every region there are certain names which has already been decided by various countries, and with as the number come or in the chronological order these names are given. So this cyclone was given a name which is decided by Pakistan, and name is Asna. Okay, the meaning of the name is the one to be acknowledged or to be praised. Okay, so that is Asna for you. You can remember these facts and you can use them. Okay, special or you can say important from UPSC's point of view is that this is the rare cyclone, because after 1981 this is the first time such cyclone has come. Okay, now moving further, know our constitution. Here we will be talking about the union government. You know that president is part of union government, and we will be discussing the you can say article with respect to that. So Article 123, power of President to promulgate ordinance during the recess of Parliament. Okay, when we are talking about any law making power of the Parliament, you know that legislature has the power to make law, and in India we have Parliament and the state assemblies. When we talk about center, we have Parliament. Okay, and Parliament is the, you can say, authority which can make a law when, if let's say both the houses are basically passing this particular bill, and then it is sent to the presidential assent and president gives the assent, then it will become a law. Okay, but what if there is an emergency situation and a law is needed to be made, but the Parliament is in recess? You know that Rajya Sabha is a permanent house, but the thing is they have also have the recess between the sessions. Okay, now let's say Parliament is not in session, then who will make the law? In that case, even if one of the house is not in session, okay, or they are on the recess, in that case president can make a law through the ordinance making power. Okay, why? Because if any one of the house of the Parliament is not in session, that means that that house cannot look into that particular bill, they cannot pass that particular bill. In that regard, president has to take, if president is, you can say, convinced that there is a situation where he has to make a law, then he can go for the ordinance. Okay, now ordinances are also on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. That is, simple, because we have already seen that president does not have constitutional discretions, it has the situational discretions. Okay, so that is there. Now let's talk about it. President can issue ordinance when one of the houses of the Parliament is not in session. Then maximum validity of the ordinance is 6 months and 6 weeks. I'll tell you why. Because ordinance, here you can say an ordinance will expire after 6 weeks once the both houses of the Parliament are in session. Once the houses are in session, after that ordinance will be valid for the 6 weeks only. Okay, and the maximum time our Parliament cannot meet or cannot have a session, that is basically 6 months. You know that there was this article where we have seen that there will be a session of Parliament without not more than a delay of 6 months. Okay, so 6 months is the time for which maximum Parliament cannot be in session. So that is the 6 months, and plus after 6 months once it is in the session, after that only 6 weeks is the time for which that particular ordinance can be valid. So here 6 months plus 6 weeks, that is the maximum lifeline of an ordinance. Here you can say maximum validity of the ordinance is 6 months and 6 weeks. Okay, I hope that is clear. Now a constitutional amendment cannot be made through the ordinance route. Now this is you can say a very important aspect which has been covered over here, that you cannot make constitutional amendments. Okay, so for the constitutional amendment to be made, only Parliament has the power. Okay, you cannot do it through the ordinance. Now moving further, ordinance route is envisaged for immediate action, i.e. if president is convinced or satisfied that the circumstances exist which render it necessary for him to take immediate action, he may promulgate such ordinance as the circumstance appeared him to be. Okay, so in that case, if the president is satisfied that there is an emergency situation and he has to go for the ordinance, then he can. Again, it is on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Okay, so that part is necessary. Now moving further and starting with our discussions, because this is something which we have already discussed, and from the next lecture we will be starting the Supreme Court, Article 124 Supreme Court. Okay. Now first phase of the voting next week ahead of the polls, Election Commission to Jammu and Kashmir administration saying that don't shift the booth or cancel rallies, no preventive detentions. Okay, when we talk about the Jammu and Kashmir area, you know that it has been a while. When we are talking about this particular area, there are various issues and concerns which are related to this particular area, and there are, you can say, incidences of violence which has been seen in the past. But after considering the, you can say, Lok Sabha election which has happened last year, in these Lok Sabha elections it was seen that there is an enthusiasm related to democracy, and there is this enthusiasm related to the election process. Considering that, Election Commission has decided that we will not go for cancellation of the rallies mere on the basis of mere suspicion, you can say speculations that there can be any kind of incident of violence. That is one thing. Second thing is, we will not go for the preventive detentions. Earlier what used to happen is that the government used to go for the, or the state administration used to go for the you can say preventive detentions. Why? Because there are people with the, you can say, criminal background, etc., and so it is speculated that they might be hindrance in the process of election, so they are actually, taken into custody under the preventive detention. But this time they have said that only those people who has the criminal record, those who are actually having some kind of suspicion, you can go for that, and not for the political leaders and the political workers. Okay, on the basis of mere suspicion that they might actually do something, you cannot put them behind the, you can say, preventive detention. And that is why they have said that only rational preventive detention will be done only for those who are habitual offenders, who are actually having already some criminal, you can say, background, then only you can go for the preventive action. So that is second thing. Other than that, they have said they will not be cancelling any kind of particular, you can say, booth or merging of the booth, because at the last moment, if you cancel polling at particular booth, or you can say merge certain booth with other booth, in that case what will happen is that there is a chaos or the confusion among the masses, and because of which many people cannot even go for the voting. Okay, that is why this time you will not go for cancellation or the merging of the booths. That is has been decided by the Election Commission. Reason they have cited, because they want to make sure that the participation of the people should increase in the election. Okay, all these activities, preventive detention or the merging or the cancellation of the booths, or you can say cancellation of the rallies, etc., all these things are you can say kind of a hindrance, because rallies are something where people are actually addressed by the their representatives. So that is one thing, they are that is part of the you can say election campaign. When we talk about the preventive detention, if that there are many detentions which are actually you can say not in the line with the rationality, in that case you can say that we are preventing certain people from being part of the elections. Okay, if you are on the preventive detention, there are certain things you cannot do. Other than that, this particular merging of the booths, etc., they make sure that people are reluctant to go for voting, etc., because if you are merging a particular booth with certain concern or certain speculation, it is understood that there might be something if they go out, or there is a speculation of violence, etc. In such cases, they are deterred from the voting. Okay, so that is why Election Commission this time decided that they will be increasing the participation here, bid to increase the participation of the candidate and voters. Okay, this is all which is written over here. Okay, this is the, when we are talking about the elections, state assembly elections in Jammu and Kashmir, this is happening after 10 years. Okay, Lok Sabha election has happened last year, and when we are talking about you can say turnout in the Lok Sabha election, so the turnout in the Lok Sabha election in 2014, that was nearly 65%. Okay, and 2000 when we are talking about the recent election that has happened in 2024, the turnout was nearly around 58%. Okay, but the important factor over here is that in 2024, when we are talking about in the Lok Sabha election, that has become, Jammu and Kashmir has become a union territory. Earlier it was a full-fledged state. Okay, the area of Ladakh or Leh, etc., was also part of this. Okay, so considering that 58% you can say you can say turnout was there. Okay, now if we are talking about the state assembly election, so after you can say changing the status of Jammu and Kashmir from state to a union territory, this is the first time there will be state assembly elections. Okay, so that is about Jammu and Kashmir and what changes Election Commission is being wanting in the process of election, which we have already taken. Now moving further, the next article is related to the grave threat from the AMR, antimicrobial resistance. Okay, antimicrobial resistance, which is caused when the microbes involved into the drug resistance superbugs in response to the misuse or overuse of the antibiotics. What is happening actually? Let's say you have a particular, let's say fever or something, and you go to a doctor. Doctor gives you a course of, let's say, 5 days. Okay, most of the time you will be seeing that 70% of the cases, 70% of the patients who are visiting the hospital, they are prescribed antibiotics. Now you were also prescribed antibiotics and for the 5 days, but what you did was that you took the medicine for 3 days and you felt better, and then you did not take it for the next 2 days. Okay, after 1 month or 2 months, again there was this fever and you went to a doctor, again he has prescribed you for 5 days, you have taken for 2 days, and that you can say fever was gone and you discontinued the medicine. Now because of this improper doses, the virus, or you can say the whatever microbe is there, it is developing an immunity, because we know that these microbes, these virus, pathogens, etc. are also going through a continuous changes. Okay, when we talk about corona, we have seen various variant of that. So these are also going for various changes, and considering that you are not taking proper dose, what it is given them, or you can say there is some kind of resistance which is developed inside their, you can say, anatomy. When we talk about human body also, if you know, when we are talking about the COVID, we have seen that we had the exposure with the COVID to certain extent, that we have developed the immunity, herd immunity against the COVID. Okay, so similarly in these microbes, pathogens also, when you know, frequent exposure to the antibiotics, which lead them to go for certain changes, and ultimately they are resistant to these antibiotics. Now that condition is called antimicrobial resistance. The pathogens are not responding to the antibiotic which is been given by the doctors, because they have developed a resistance against that. Okay, now why they are developing it? There are various factors. One of the factor is that the improper doses. Okay, that is one thing. Second thing, you know that if we are talking about certain production, let's say production of the antibiotics, there is this waste which is been discharged into, let's say, some water body or some fields, etc. Ultimately, somehow if water is used somewhere over, you know, in, let's say, you can say irrigation, or you can say in the agriculture, they becomes part of the food chain as well, because of which also that can happen. Okay, so these are certain things. These are basically talking about the antimicrobial resistance. Now we will look into the you know, various factors over here. We will be seeing that what is antimicrobial resistance, we will see what are the impacts, we will see that what is the most common resistant pathogen in India we have. There is this list, or you can say this picture, we will try to discuss that as well. Now coming to the, you can say, recent, why we are discussing about it. Here you can see WHO guidelines on the antibiotic pollution. On September 3rd, the World Health Organization released the first ever guidance on managing antibiotic pollution from manufacturing, highlighting concerns about the antimicrobial resistance. Now they are talking about the manufacturing. Why? Because as I told you, because of the manufacturing or the production process, there are certain waste which are being discarded, which are being if not managed well, and then they can be you know, a part of the food chain, and that will be, or you can say that will you know, give you the exposure, and ultimately these will somehow harm the immunity of a person, and these will since they are in the atmosphere, so pathogens, etc. will also be in the touch of that. There are chances that they will be developing antimicrobial resistance with respect to that. Now moving further, we will be seeing that this particular picture has been given. Most common perceptions if we are talking about, so mostly the prescriptions, we go to the doctor, most of the time 72% of the time the patient coming to a tertiary hospital are basically prescribed antibiotics. Okay, so that is there. Number of people on one antibiotic, that is 47%. Number of people on 2 antibiotics, 35%. Number of people on 3 antibiotics, 18%. So this is why the prevalence of the antibiotics is basically causing this problem for us. Okay, now there are two, when we are talking about the hospital induced diseases are also there. When we see if you go to a hospital, and if you are a healthy person, if you are visiting the hospital, there are certain pathogens which are found especially in the hospital environment. Okay, that can also cause you certain kind of diseases. So when we are talking about the facility like ICU, so there is this Acinetobacter baumannii. So this is basically an pathogen which is most commonly found in the ICU. Okay, what the pathogen does is cause the pneumonia, infection of the blood, urinary tract infections, and on the wounds, etc. it can cause infections. Okay, it is becoming an important hospital derived infection. So here this word hospital induced or the hospital derived infection, which are also increasing because of this particular condition. If we are talking about the resistance, continues to have 88% resistance to the third line strong antibiotics like carbapenem. Okay, so this particular, you can say, pathogen has resistance to this particular antibiotic. Okay, so this is the third line of defense, and this is basically the antibiotics through against which it has developed a resistance of 88%. Okay, when we are talking about the wards and OPD, you find this E. coli pathogen over there. Okay, so because of which also there are diarrhea, UTI, etc. which can happen, and it has also developed nearly 18.6 percent resistance in 2017, and 2023 37.3% resistance. Okay, so these are the cases of your, you can say, AMR resistance, and that is why it is becoming a cause of concern for us. Now let's look into the other picture as well. AMR concerns, if we are talking about AMR, where pathogens evolved to survive despite antimicrobial drugs, can lead to the creation of superbugs. Superbug is a condition when a particular bug or pathogen is not responding to antibiotics. Okay, so it has become a superbug. So it can lead to creation of superbug that resist treatment, posing a significant global health threat. This situation can make simple infections to difficult to treat, increasing hospitalization to the treatment cost. Now let's see E. coli. E. coli is a bacteria which is causing you diarrhea. Now diarrhea or any kind of UTI. Okay, UTI is an infection. Now this is a very simple infection that can be you can say taken care with the drugs, but the problem is if that particular E. coli is developing resistance against that particular drug, how will you treat it? Okay, so ultimately a small infection can be a cause of a bigger disease, bigger time in the hospital. All these things can happen because that particular you can say pathogen has developed a resistance against the antibiotics. Okay, now if that resistance against particular drug is nearly 100%, or that particular bug is not responding to that particular medicine at all, in that case we are calling that a super bug. Okay, now ICMR survey says that the Indian Council of Medical Research reports rising AMR in India, with common pathogens becoming increasingly resistant to the antibiotics like E. coli. Now E. coli is a very common pathogen. Okay, so that is there. This issue persists despite consistent surveillance efforts. Okay, now moving further, seeing some factors which are contributing to the AMR. Okay, individuals. Many people misuse antibiotic for the viral infections or self-medicate without consulting a doctor, driving up to the resistance. Now when we are talking about, let's say you are having a fever, most of the time you don't even go to a doctor, you take a paracetamol, you take antibiotics, and that's fine. Okay, now that is the problem. If you are using the improper doses, okay, and improper drug, that can cause the, you can say, this particular resistance. Second is doctors. Now doctors are also going for the overuse and over prescription of the, you can say, antibiotics. Here you can say overuse and improper prescription of broad spectrum antibiotics contribute to the resistance. Okay, education on appropriate antibiotic use is needed. So that is second thing, that one is you are taking improper doses, you are taking over the counter drugs. Second thing is doctors are prescribing or the overuse of particular drug. When we are talking about we have seen in that particular graph that 72% people who are entering into a tertiary clinic, they will be getting a antibiotic. Okay, so that is certain things which are causing the AMR. Then diagnostics. Empirical prescribing based on the symptoms rather than on the diagnostic test. Mostly when we are going for a, you can say, mohalla clinics, etc. Okay, not the one which are having in Delhi. Mohalla clinic by means that there are various doctors which are sitting in the small chambers over there, or they are running their you can say clinics, and most of the time you will be seeing that they are not running any kind of tests. Okay, because people are averse to these tests, they will not go for spending such money, and considering that doctor knows that if I write up so many tests, my patient might not come. In that case, what is happening is that they are not going for the proper diagnosis, and ultimately they are writing the, you can say, drugs or the prescription without going for the diagnostics tests. So that is why, that is another reason, empirical prescribing based on the symptoms rather than the diagnosis, that can lead to the improper antibiotic use. Okay. Moving further, pharma companies, the WHO's new guidelines aim to address antibiotic pollution from the manufacturing, which can contribute to AMR. Effective wastewater and the solid waste management are crucial. Okay, so here to fight that, effective wastewater treatment and the solid waste management is the thing which you have to do. Which when we are talking about, I started talking about this particular thing, and I told you that WHO given a guidelines. I told you that these wastewater which are causing a problem, and similarly solid waste management is also a problem. Okay, now moving further, impact of AMR in India, which we have already discussed. We have talked about the Acinetobacter baumannii, and we have talked about the E. coli in that particular graph. So you can go through that, or you can read this particular paragraph over here. Moving further, recommended actions. So if you want to prevent, what you have to do? Prevention says that improve hygiene, sanitation, vaccination rates to reduce the infection rates and the need of the antibiotics. First of all, you have to make sure that you are taking the precautions, you are not even getting you can say ill, or you are not getting the infection. That is the first thing you can do. Second thing is education. Train the doctors to go for the proper procedure, not to just see the symptoms and go for the prescribing a drug. Or second thing is go for proper doses. You have to make sure that antibiotics are used only when needed. Train the doctors to use antibiotics judiciously and reserve stronger antibiotics for hospital settings. Encourage diagnosis test before prescribing. Okay. Then regulation. Implement and enforce regulation to manage antibiotic pollution from manufacturing facilities to study the resistance pathways. Okay. So basically this is about, you can say, certain recommendations, or you can say these are certain you can say way forward which you can use. So that can be you can say way forward in your answer. We have discussed the issue, and this is the way forward, or you can say a solution to your problem. Okay. Now we can move further to the next article, which is talking about Polaris Dawn mission. Okay. From your exams point of view, they will not ask a bigger question from this particular you can say particular mission, but the thing is you should know that what is the objective of this mission, okay, and what kind of impact it will have. Now this is a mission by a private sector. Now if they ask you something about space technology in India and the role of private sector, you can mention this example that we can work on these lines. Okay. Now what is happening in this particular mission is that a crew is going to space, and they will be going for a space walk. Okay. What is space walk? That they will be getting out of their vehicle, okay, and for a specific period of time they will be there in the space. Okay. Now a billionaire person is also going on this particular mission. We will be talking about that, but when we are talking about the mission, it is being you can say monitored by SpaceX, and along with that there are other collaborations as well. Okay, but right now when we are talking about this particular mission, this is a manned mission and it is about the spacewalk. Okay, so that is one thing. Second thing is that it will signifies the role of private sector in this space. There can be a chance, the you can say ultimate objective is that to make sure that you can send people to the Mars. Okay, so that is the ultimate objective of such flights. When we are talking about the vision of Elon Musk, he has this vision that he want to make these journeys as smooth and affordable so that people can go and touch the Mars. Okay. Now when we are talking about this, that means that private sector can do it, and when we are talking about this SpaceX, you will be seeing that every 1 year or two you will be finding out that they are sending satellites. Okay. Other than then you must have heard about the Starlink project is there, which is related to you can say internet services, etc. They are making you can say series of satellites. They are making a network of satellites in the space. Okay. Anyways, coming to the again topic. Now let's see. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifted off from the Florida on Tuesday, carrying American billionaire Jared Isaacman and 3 others. It is the world's first private spacewalk. Okay, so that is one important factor, that it is world's first private spacewalk. No doubt, the private you can say this space endeavor has happened earlier. Also there are certain people who has actually, when we are talking about the SpaceX only, they have used Falcon 9 etc. So they are there in the private sector, but this will be the first private spacewalk. Okay. Now this will be a 5 days mission, okay, and known as Polaris Dawn, and first of the 3, there are 3 testing missions which are there. This will be the first of them, and when we are talking about the under Polaris program, this is jointly executed by the Isaacman and the you can say Elon Musk SpaceX. Okay. Now the program aims to develop the new technology that could be used to send people to Mars someday. Okay, so that is the basically idea. When we are talking about the spacewalk, what is spacewalk? So it is an extravehicular activity in space. Extravehicular activity, that means that something apart from the vehicle, something which is outside from the vehicle. Okay, so here you will be seeing a period of activity spent outside a spacecraft by an astronaut in space. Earlier, when we are talking about the time of 1965, you know that this was first done by the Soviet Union. In Soviet Union, there was this you can say astronaut or the cosmonaut as they say over there. So the name of that person was Alexei Leonov. Alexei Leonov was the person who was first person to have the spacewalk. He was there for nearly 10 minutes in the space. Okay. Second thing, when we are talking about the nowadays, these spacewalks can go for hours, 2 to 4 hours. They can go outside the, you can say, vehicle. They can go for the various experiments, etc. Now, why you have to go for the spacewalk? The idea behind here is that you can see the environment. First thing, you can collect the sample, you can perform certain experiments over there. So that is the idea for the spacewalks. Okay. Now, if we talk about who is on the board of this Polaris Dawn, okay. As I told you that these spacewalks can be go for 5 to 8 hours. Sorry, 2 to 4 hours, not 2 to 4 hours. It can go for the 5 to 8 hours. Okay, so that is something important. Now, when we are talking about the what kind of equipment you will need, so there are space suits which are there, and when we are talking about there are two kind of ways. One is that there will be a connection which will be made with the spacecraft, and that tail like structure will be attached to your suit. Okay, so that is one thing that is called as, I guess, here you can say rope like structure. Safety tethers will be there, and that will be attached to the you can say the cosmonaut over there, and that will have a direct connection with the spacecraft. So they will be controlling it from that. Okay, so that is one thing, and that is why that is to do, because so you know that there is this issue of gravity over there. Okay, and because of which there might be a chance that you might flow away in the space. So that to restrict that particular thing, you have to tie yourself with the spacecraft. Okay, so that is one thing. Second thing is, you can use a particular kind of suit which is having a backpack like structure on your back, that is called a safer. Okay, so that is basically simplified aid for EVA rescue. Okay, these safers are basically having the, you can say, some system which is having these thrusters which are there. Okay, these thrusters are there, and these are controlled by the joystick. You must have seen Iron Man. Okay, so Iron Man in near his boots has the thrusters, so he can fly. Okay, so similarly there will be these thrusters which will be controlling which will be controlled by the joystick. Okay, and they can control the motion of the, you can say, astronaut over there. So these are certain things with respect to the spacewalk. Now, who is on the board? As I told you, there are three. Isaacman is there. Other than that, also there are three people in that particular you can say mission. So Isaacman's second trip will be there, and Scott Pottit is there, and then this Anna Menon is there, Sarah Gillis is there. You don't have to remember the names. Okay. Now, moving further, what are the mission's objectives? So, SpaceX Dragon capsule will be first aim to get a maximum about 1400 kilometers from the Earth. Okay, so it will be going to the 1400 kilometers, and then it will, when we are talking about NASA's Gemini, it was earlier you can say another spacecraft which was there, that has gone to the 1372 kilometers. Okay, so if they goes to 1400 kilometers, that will break a record. Second thing is, when we are talking about such missions, okay, so this is not headed in the direction of moon. Okay, most of the time when we are talking about this NASA's Gemini mission reached in 1966 record for any crewed mission that was not headed to the moon. Okay, so this particular mission will also be like that. Now, Van Allen radiation belt. When we are talking about this particular Van Allen radiation belt, this is a belt from the, you can say, 1000 kilometers from the Earth. Okay, so let's say this is your Earth. From the 1000 kilometers, there is another belt. Now, this belt is also actually revolving around the Earth. Okay, so here you will be saying that Van Allen radiation belt, region in the space that encircles the Earth. Okay, so here you can see, like this, there will be a belt. This is encircling the Earth, and that is at the 1000 kilometer. You can say. So in this particular belt, there are, you can say, radiations which are prominent. Sorry, radiations which are prominent in this particular belt. Okay, so this crew will be there, and they will be actually conducting research with the aim of better understanding of the effect of space flight and space radiation on the human health. Okay, so they will try to understand the radiations and the kind of radioactivity which is there in the Van Allen belt. Okay, so that is there. Moving further, the spacewalk's main aim is to test the spacesuit. As I told you, there are three you can say missions which are lined up, and this is one of them. Okay. Other than the ultimate aim is to send the man to the you can say Mars, and that is why this particular you can say space suit test will be performed over there. Okay, as EVA space suits. Okay, equipped with the cameras, head-up displays, which will be telling about the pressure, etc., and this will be telling about the you can say condition of the suit in the display, which is put in front of the astronauts. Okay. Now they will, other than that, they will be going for the 40 scientific experiments during the you can say this particular walk. Okay, I hope that is clear. Now we can move to the next one. Okay, center relaxes norms under PM Awas Yojana Gramin. Okay, so income limit up to 15,000, fridge, two-wheelers, landline, not a bar. Now the thing is, earlier when we are talking about the this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, so there are certain factors or certain you can say elements which are there, which are used to exclude the people who do not need PM Awas. Okay, if a person is there who is having decent amount of land, a person who is having three four-wheeler, etc., a person who is in the government job, a person who is having a two-story building, a person who is having at least 2-3 houses, so such person will not need a house under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Okay, so that limit was there, and there were certain changes which has been made in that particular limit. Okay, so here let's see, the center has relaxed the automatic exclusion criteria under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, allowing families owning two-wheelers, motorized fishing boat, refrigerator, landline phones, and earning up to 15,000 per month now can enroll for the you can say this particular scheme. Okay, so a person who is having these particular things which are given over here, a person who is having two-wheelers, a motorized boat, you can say a fishing boat, and then refrigerators, landline phones, and the monthly income, that is 15,000. Such person will not be excluded from the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Okay. Now there are certain parameters. The parameters that continue, that will result into the you can say exclusion, that is if you are having a motorized 3 or 4-wheeler, then you are having a mechanized 3 or 4-wheeler, agricultural equipments, Kisan credit with the credit limit of 50,000 and above, household with any members having a government employment. Other than that, household with non-agricultural enterprises registered with the government, any member of family paying income tax, paying professional tax, land ownership ceiling up to 2.5 acres or more of the irrigated land. So these are certain criteria which are there. If you are having a irrigated land that is more than 2.5 acres, if you are having a Kisan credit card which is having a limit more than 50,000. Okay, other than that, if you are having any kind of 3-wheeler or 4-wheeler, in such cases you will be automatically excluded from the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Okay, under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, all households living in houses with pakka roof or pakka wall and households in the houses with more than 2 rooms were already filtered out. Okay, if someone is already having a pakka house, already having more than 2 rooms in a particular house, in such cases these people has already been filtered out. Okay. Now, if we are talking about the objective of this particular scheme, so objective here you can see the center aims to construct 2 crore additional houses under rural household scheme, or you can say the rural housing scheme, which is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana by 2028-29. Now, these particularly 2 crores household are in addition to the earlier target which is there over and above the target of 2.95 crores, okay, set under the housing for all. So when we are talking about this target which was already there, and now they have taken a new target. Okay, so total houses will be 2.95 crore plus 2 crore, that is 4.95 crores. Okay, so that is there. Now under the Prime Minister Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, each beneficiary gets up to 1.2 lakh in the plains, 1.3 lakh in hilly states, difficult areas, and the tribal and the backward areas, and that is under the integrated action plan. Okay, and when we are talking about this money which is being given to the candidates, okay, for building the houses. Now when we are talking about the distribution of center and state, so center will be giving 60 and state will be giving 40 in the normal case, normal states. And when we are talking about the states, like you can say certain northeastern states and northeastern states of India, and there are 2 hill states, 2 Himalayan states. Okay, So in such cases, along with the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, in such cases the contribution of the center will be 90% and 10% will be of the, you can say, states or the Union Territory. Okay, I hope that is clear. Now we can move to the next one. India bets for new disclosure norms for cross-border credit card transaction under Financial Action Task Force. Okay, so when we are talking about the cross-border card transactions, etc., so there are right now there are certain norms which are there with respect to the you can say transparency, to ensure that there is a transparency. So here there was this recent the global money laundering and the terrorist financing watchdog, that is Financial Action Task Force, is working towards new norms for the higher disclosure of the financial institutions, payment aggregators and fintech company for the cross border payments. Okay, so they are trying to come up with the new norms. Okay, so we'll be seeing that what is the things which are existing, how these new norms or what are they proposing and how that will impact India. Okay, for that we will be discussing that in the form of, you can say, these text which is written over there. Now new FATF, Financial Action Task Force norms, the Financial Action Task Force is considering new norms for higher disclosure by the financial institutions, payment aggregators and the fintech companies for the cross border credit card transactions. Okay, cross border credit card transactions means that if you are a person who is from India and you have gone to Bhutan for, let's say from some purpose, and you have used credit card over there, in such cases what the details of these credit cards will be monitored. Okay, so what is the you can say norm which should be there, and this Financial Action Task Force is trying to actually you can say propose certain new you can say norms in that particular area. Now why Financial Action Task Force is doing that? Because this is a watchdog which is making sure that the corruption or the, you can say, money laundering incidents are lower. Okay, other than that, when we are talking about the terror funding, okay, so they are watchdog in that regard, so that is why they are proposing these particular norms. Now consultative forums, an international consultative forum will be held in Mumbai in April 2025 with participants from Indian industry, private sector, regulators from the FATF member countries to discuss the new norms. Okay, so that will be discussion in 2025, but right now they have just said that they are intending to do that. Now current requirements, if we are talking about the present case, so credit card companies record basic information such as the name of the sender and recipient and the origin of the country. Now these three things they are actually recording till now, and these three things they can share. Now the proposed changes, what they are saying, that the new norms would require real time reporting of the credit card transactions details to the law and enforcement agencies. As and when the transaction has happened, the law enforcement agencies will know about that particular transaction. Okay, so that is something which has been proposed. Now for such things to happen, there is a lot of technology and infrastructure which is required over there. And now let's see, this tech and infrastructure is required, and this has to be made sure by the companies, or you can say that credit card companies, etc. So the cost will increase, and if the cost increases, then they will charge more from the customers. Okay, so that is there. Now India's position, India supports greater transparency and disclosure, but emphasizes the need to balance compliance with the industry's concerns. And what are the concerns of industries? Industries concerns are that to implement such a big thing, you need you can say technology as well as finances. Okay, so that is there. It will negatively impact the fintech sector. So that is one thing. India's rating, if we talk about, India has achieved a high level of technical compliance and is in the regular follow-up category, a distinction which is shared by only few G20 countries. Now here you can say there are two distinctions. One is the high level of the technical compliance, that whatever compliance is needed as per the FATF norms, which are we are doing that. Second thing is regular follow-ups are also been provided by India. Okay, now FATF recommendations. The FATF aims to revise the recommendations to enhance transparency and the security in the cross-border payments, aligning with the G20 Priority Action Plan. Now, if we are talking about the industrial concern, as I already told you, that they will require you can say technology as well as the investments. Now, moving further from the IR's point of view, there is nothing much to discuss today. There was one thing, that after the defense dialogue, as I told you, there is a defense dialogue which was going on between the Maldives and the India, and after that dialogue, it was decided that President Moizu will visit India next week. Okay, so that is one thing. Moving further, the second one is about the India funded Bangla project to continue interim government advisor. Okay, so you know that in Bangladesh there is this interim government which is there after the, you can say, resignation by the PM Sheikh Hasina over there. So that particular government advisor has said that despite whatever is going on domestically over there, they will not have any kind of impact on the investments which India has made over there in the various projects. They will try to make sure that these you can say projects are working continuously. Second thing is that these projects are important for Bangladesh as well. Okay, so that has been discussed in this particular article. You don't have to go through from this particular article. Okay, this is just a development to tell you that these projects will not be hindered. Okay. Now, for your own read, there is this article that is teen girls' brain aged rapidly during the pandemic, study finds. Now, this article is not at all, they will not ask you something from this particular article. This is for those who are having an interest in the biology and the science. Just know that here there is this study which fact can be, there is a fact which can be asked to you. Okay, a study of adolescent brain development that tested children before and after the COVID-19 pandemic in United States. They had found that the girl's brain aged far faster than expected, and that is because of the social isolation which has been they were put during the time of the COVID-19. Okay. Now, this particular thing, when we are talking about the that age is rapidly increasing. Okay. So, just know that particular factor, that because of the social isolation that could happen. Okay. So, you can go through this article. That is all about today's discussion. Now, for your own practice, there is this question: what is a common consequence of antibiotic resistance observed in hospital? First, or option A, increased rate of successful treatment, shorter hospital stays, longer hospital stays and higher treatment cost, and decrease of the decreased use of the antibiotics. Okay, so you can attempt this question and answer to me in the comment box. With that, I would like to take your leave. I will see you in the next session. Till then, have a good day, and if you have not subscribed the channel, please subscribe it. Have a nice day. Thank you.